So, the Shadowgrapher comes out in about a week as of recording, and I'm honestly really excited. I think that Foley looks really cool. Like as a Warframe, her ability suite seems pretty rad. If a little bit overpowered, but I'll get into that in a little bit. But first, I kind of want to explain why I just said that it's coming out in about a week, but you're seeing this after the update came out. Right now, as I'm recording this, it is March 18th. The Shadowgrapher update comes out in a week. And I wanted to kind of get this in and give my kind of last minute thoughts on what I'm hoping for, what I'm excited for, those sorts of things. Then I'll do another recording pretty soon after the update comes out, once I get my hands on Foley and potentially her weapon as well, and just kind of give my thoughts on her, what I've experienced of the Foley's Hunt game mode. And then after like a week of the update being out or two, probably try to get a little bit of Operation Atramentum, like figure out kind of how that all works, the rewards from it, see if it's worth it or not, right? And kind of give my views on that and kind of how to build craft Foley just a little bit, right? Just some like starting places, jumping off points. So things that I'm looking forward to, obviously Foley, excellent looking Warframe. She is gorgeous, as we all know. The Atrograph mods, those look really cool. I think it's really cool that they're adding like a new like line of cosmetic that you actually have to like work for, right? I enjoy cosmetics that you actually have to like do stuff to get, right? Like the cosmetics that you can get for like Warframes and weapons and things are really cool, but I definitely like cosmetics that you have to like put in a little bit of elbow grease and like get resources for, right? I think that's pretty rad. Like the what are the Honoria, those are pretty sick. I really enjoyed those. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to those. I will be collecting all of them as quickly as possible. I'm also really looking forward to Foley's Hunt. That game mode actually looks like one of the better ones that we've gotten out of these, like, oh, new Warframe gets its own game mode, right? Like we've seen that out of the likes of Jade and Kome, off the top of my head, have their own game mode attached to them. They're like specifically for them. And Foley's Hunt, obviously, is going to be specifically for Foley and her weapon. And I'm excited to give it a try, because there are some pretty cool things about it that I really like as far as the mission design. I like that it's very interactive. I like that there's like an active threat, right? It's not just like, oh, there's enemies, and if you don't kill them fast enough, then you die. It's like, oh, you're being targeted, and if you stay in Foley's zone for too long, you're dead, right? I think that's pretty rad. It kind of introduces like a new method of making sure that you're staying alive. And of course, the new adversary weapons, right? We're getting 3 new weapons at least. The ones that I remember them talking about were the Coda Bubonico and the Kuva Ghoul Saw, which both sound pretty cool. I don't really use the Bubonico, and I've never owned a Ghoul Saw, but I've always thought the Ghoul Saw looked pretty funny, and when I had the Bubonico, I think I might actually still have it, but when I used the Bubonico, it was actually pretty fun. I did enjoy it, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what changes about their behaviors, their damage, and just like seeing how they end up being built. But that's it for things that I'm looking forward to. On to some questions and things that I want to see out of the update. The first question that I have that I kind of want to answer when I get Foley, I'll have to kind of rope one of my friends into this to test it. In the dev stream, they showed off that Foley can spawn a Void Death Orb, right? Those things that either punch out a shockwave or shoot lasers out of a bunch of faceplates. I want to know if those death orbs are going to give energy to primes like how they do in the Void and on Lua, and I think there are a couple that you can find in the Deimos tile set, though I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head. Additionally, I would love to see the change that they kind of talked about a few times but never really got around to like making official, which is Varuna going on all 4s during Ulfrin's descent. She does currently when she's standing still, but myself and a lot of people would love to see Varuna running around on all 4s, just like adding that little extra animation. They gave an extra animation to Limbo at some point, because when I first got Limbo, he rolled normal, but I played him recently, and he does not roll normal anymore. His role is actually kind of reminiscent of Jade's, but I'm getting kind of sidetracked. Another thing I would like to see, new augment mods. They haven't really said anything about any new augment mods coming out, but I would like to see those. Pretty soon after the update comes out, I think like a few days before the Atramentum operation even comes out, Warframe's going to be at PAX. We are getting a new Prime trailer, and they said that it's going to be like something to rival Gauss Prime's reveal trailer, right? And what I think would be really cool, I know that they would never be able to get the rights to this, but they did get the rights to a Nine Inch Nails song to be used essentially in perpetuity in the game, because it's part of the Whispers in the Wall quest. If you didn't know, the song that plays in, spoilers, the song that plays in Whispers in the Wall when you go and take control of Arthur for the first time, that is a song by Nine Inch Nails from the year 1999 called Into the Void, right? So really good thematics there. But I think what would be really cool is if they were able to get Wolf in Sheep's Clothing Reborn, I Set It Off, like the more recent version of it, and make the Prime trailer for Varuna off of that, because we know that Varuna Prime is coming soon. They've gone out of order a couple of times in the past as far as like the expected order that people are thinking is going to come out for Primes, and I think the next one that is in like the proper order I think is Styanax, but it's very like people are thinking that it might be very possible that they're talking about seeing potentially a Varuna Prime reveal at PAX. We're also probably going to see some more information about that cold rework at PAX, but that'll all be its own video as far as like what they revealed at PAX, what all went on, and like kind of the whole description of everything. But yeah, that's about it for me. Let's see how the update is. Okay, so Foley's been out for about a week now. Took me about 4 days to actually get her after the update dropped. I had enough platinum to buy her, but I wanted to experience the grind itself first. But I want to talk about kind of the experience of grinding her out, one, but also two, how she actually feels, and the answer to some of the things that I was kind of curious about before getting her. So, with Foley came the new game mode, Foley's Hunt, and honestly, I was pretty alright with the game mode when it was first around. It was a little bit annoying in some respects, I had my criticisms of it, but I think they did a pretty good job of the initial design. I think they just kind of went a little too hard in the paint on the co-op mode. I played it both in public and on solo, like once I kind of got a grasp for like how it all worked. So the way that it ends up happening, there's a different amount of paint that you have to get to each canvas, depending on how many people are in the party, right? So if it's just you, then you have to get 2 things of paint to each canvas. But if you're with teammates, right, then there's slightly more, all the way up to needing 6 per canvas at a full party of 4. Then there's the issue of Foley herself, or Folly, I don't know. So the PAX thing already happened, and there they started calling her Folly, but also Foley, kind of interchangeably. And in-game, Aspirant Zorba does say Folly, so I don't know what the answer is. It genuinely could be anything, because during all the dev streams they were saying Foley, and now they're saying Folly, right? It's all back and forth ski, and I don't get it. So I'm just gonna say Foley, because I think it sounds better. But anyway, Foley will show up, well, she would, because they changed it. She would show up, she's completely invincible, and you essentially just have to either run from her or run through the field that she spawns that deals pretty consistent damage on you the entire time. It was a little bit annoying because there would be an additional Foley per player on the team. So like by the time everyone was there, you would have 4 invincible Foleys, and there was nothing you could really do other than run away, especially if you had the paint on you, because as the operator, now there is a little bit of a potentially bug, I don't know, but there is a little bit of maybe exploit, maybe intentional thing, I'm not sure, where if you toggle into crouch while you're an operator and you have the paint on you, you do actually go into void mode and you become immune to the damage as long as your void mode will last, right? So if you have an operator with a high energy pool, you can actually just walk through, right? You kind of have to like slow crouch walk, but you can still basically just walk through, which is kind of cool. But like, one, people didn't realize that, and two, it was kind of annoying to have 4 Foleys running around that you couldn't do anything about. So what they did in the change, which I think was a little bit overzealous, right? They changed a couple of things. One, there was an issue where Foley would be able to essentially spawn camp you. If you got paint and went into operator mode and Foley took out your operator soon after, she wouldn't go away, she would just stand there while your Warframe died. And that was definitely annoying. I got hit by that a couple of times. So that change, very good. I appreciate that one. But the other change they made was to make it so that Foley was no longer invincible, right? She could now actually be deterred by dealing damage, and it would force her to use essentially the forced perspective ability, but like kind of souped up because it's an enemy. Enemies are just like souped up when you're fighting them. That I think was a little bit overzealous. I think if they could have made it where they limit the amount of real Foleys to 1, right? I think that would have been a better option, and then any like subsequent Foleys that spawned are ones that you can either deter or destroy, right? Like, I think that would have been better, but they changed it and it's still pretty fun. But I was having a good time before because I just like started using Uriel and just used his like the dash out of his 1, right? So just kind of like flying around the map, and I would fly through Foley's field fast enough that I wouldn't take enough damage to perish. So I was chilling, basically, but not everyone has Uriel, so it makes sense to have like some kind of workaround. But again, I think that having at least one real one to make it, you know, like an actual horror game mode, right, instead of just another thing that you shoot everything you see, I think that would have been good. You know, I think that would have been a good way to change it. But hey, the change is out, and maybe we'll see that change coming at some point down the line. Who knows? But anyway, let's talk about the woman herself, Foley. Yes, we love Foley, okay? We adore the big woman, okay? If you don't, you're a coward. Now, Foley has been, I mean, since her release, Foley's been getting some flack for being a little bit on the chunkier side, but here's the thing, fuck you, I don't care. I think she's hot. Say what you will about that. I don't care. It's my opinion. You're entitled to yours. Don't try to push your opinion on me or others though. Okay? That's all I'm asking. But anyway, her physicality aside, her kit, I've actually gotten to use it pretty extensively. I have fully leveled her twice. I have gotten 1 form on her. The way I've been building her is primarily duration, secondary into range, and then efficiency, and then just a little bit of strength to kind of bring the damage reduction from her self-portrait up to a maximum of 90%, which I recommend you all do as well, because 90% damage reduction is really nice, and you can just kind of drag it around with you. At max rank with my build, which I'll pull up here, at max rank, the maximal duration of Foley's self-portrait is about 116 seconds. It lasts for about 2 minutes, right? And if I'm in any kind of survival, it just kind of stays up, and I think that's rad. One thing that I didn't get this on video, and I really should have. I was testing her out in Steel Path, and kind of the way that I did it was I summoned a Thermion rocket and took out the like initial little cluster of enemies, like, really easily. I'd summoned the self-portrait as well, so it kind of gained some stacks off of that. Then just kind of dragged the damage reduction buff along, like, around with me, and until I got to 90% damage reduction, it just kind of kept killing shit, right? And then I just used the arc trap to, like, stun enemies, the explosive barrel to deal a lot of damage if I needed to, and I think the Loki Surge I got was the lifesteal one, like the slash damage and lifesteal on attacks, so that was kind of nice. I think the best one I could have gotten there would have been the I think there's a Loki Surge that does that one arcane where, like, you pick up health orbs and it increases your max health. So that if that is a Loki Surge and I'm thinking of that right, that would have probably been the best one to get just for, like, tanking essentially. But then weapon damage obviously kind of picked up the whole thing, and then maneuverability with her first, and then some extra crowd control with her ultimate. I will say, her first and fourth are almost certainly going to be the ones that people subsume over. I would say people probably subsume over her first before they go over her ult. Though personally, I'm not a huge fan of, like, having to redirect my attacks vertically, because then it kind of opens me up to taking damage from the enemies themselves. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think her kit's pretty fantastic. Something that I found out was that you can actually bounce off of the balloons in plain air. So that's kind of funny. Like, if you jump into them, you do get a little bit of a vertical jump. You can kind of Goomba stomp off of the balloons, which I think is very, very fun. But to test those questions that I had about the Death Orb, and another little test about the self-portrait, I decided to get a friend of mine, good old Mako Thresh. You've seen her on the channel at least once before. Decided to get her into the simulacrum to test some things out now that she has her very first Prime Warframe, Yareli Prime. I helped her grind that out a few weeks ago, and she's been loving Yareli Prime, which I think is great, because Yareli's a good Warframe. A lot of people would, well, not a lot of people, but some people would disagree with that statement. I think she's pretty good, you know, especially with Loyal Marilena, right? She just has a 90% damage reduction button. Like, okay, I'm not going to turn that down. But yeah, we decided to hop into the simulacrum and test some things out. So let's jump over to that test. All right, let's get this figured out here. So you are currently below full energy, yeah?
Correct.
Okay. So in that case, there's a death orb. Walk up to it. I saw it do it! I saw it do the thing!
Yeah, I went from 140 to 396.
That's insane. They left that feature in.
That's fucking cool.
So basically, I have a button that I can use every, like, how often? So I can use this again. So I'm just gonna make an explosive barrel, don't worry about it. So I can use that once every 30 seconds. I can give, because it gave me the energy too, which is weird. I don't remember that being a facet of, like, regular death orbs, right? But I can do that every 30 seconds, and because
that's so cool.
Yeah, and because I have fully built for duration right now, right, if I time it right, just gotta wait for the timer to run out. Oh no, it just resets the placement. But I can basically have that out forever.
Oh,
I have her built for like duration and efficiency. Okay. now just check. Okay, now it spawns normal. Yeah, I think it was just a bug. Okay, so now kill it. Ah! So it does. Your kills inside of the thing count. Now, what I want to figure out is if I kill something that's inside of the zone while I'm not, does that count? Right, so, okay. Your bubbles have collected one of the things. It didn't. Thank you again, Mako, for really helping me out there. The next part of this video that you're going to see is kind of after I've really build crafted fully. That might be in a little bit of a while. We'll kind of see how I feel about things, and I'll come back to you with kind of my fully fledged build. Right now, I am about to go off and do a bit of a collab. Just thought I'd hop in here, get this section recorded really quickly now that I kind of have my initial thoughts on Foley after immediately acquiring her. But yeah, see you then. Alright, welcome to the final part of the Shadowgrapher update recap for Warframe. We've got the Operation Atramentum stuff going on, which is pretty cool. There's some pretty cool cosmetic rewards in here. But we're going to go over that. We're going to talk about the way that I've kind of currently decided to build Foley, and just my general thoughts on kind of how the update's been going, how they've been handling stuff, just kind of in a general sense. Now you may be wondering, Jem, why are you at this kind of strange angle? Because I felt like it. Not really much more to it than that. But yeah, so let's talk about the stuff that we get for Operation Atramentum. We have the Prematura, Ephemera, Pareidolia, and Lift Ballon, which are actually procedural, I'm not sure. But they operate similar to the Invictus stuff, where you have Invictus, Emergent, and Apex, same thing with Aspirant. But here, you have them named completely different things, but they are processional, right? So this one, you have this kind of swirling ink effect that links to your... It looks like energy color, which makes sense because that's how it works on Foley. Pareidolia has this kind of that kind of like moving Rorschach visual that you get in the Foley's Hunt mission. You get that on your Warframe and just apparently like showing up in front of you from time to time, I think I saw, which was kind of interesting. And then the Lift Balloon is both of the prior, no, it doesn't really do the Rorschach thing, but it does have this, you can kind of see like inky streaks around the edges of the Warframe, and I can't really zoom out, but you can see kind of the strings along here. There's some fun little balloons that float up on your Warframe. Unfortunately, do not decrease the effects of gravity upon yourself, but that would be cool. But no arcanes this time around. A little bit disappointing, but honestly not too bad. I think the next operation will probably have them, especially if the next operation is more of like a late game thing, because Foley's Hunt is immediately post Chains of Harrow. So it's a little bit earlier than you're going to want to be giving people arcanes to make themselves stronger, because they're still kind of learning the like intricacies of the modding system. My bird is losing his fucking mind. But now let's talk about my Foley build. Alright, so, oh, fuck. Okay, no, never mind, it's not in the shop, good. Okay, so, weapons notwithstanding, there's just kind of some weapons that I personally like using, although I do have a new one, the Panthera. This thing goes hard. If this is actually as good as it feels from what I've tried around with it, I might make a video on like, hey, why are people not using this gun? But looking just at Foley here, we're still in the relay, but you can see my build. I don't have completely finished out mods, but I could, right? The capacity is still there, right? Because this would end up being an 8 cost, this would end up being a 7 cost, and that would only go up, and so the general price would only go up by 2, and then the most that this would go up would also be by 2. So I could full build this, but I would need to go back and like rework a bunch of my other Warframes builds, and I don't feel like doing that right now. But let's look at what I've done, because you can see I have subsumed something over here. So the way that I kind of went at this was get a little bit of extra health off of physique, because we have a Vazarin aura slot, right? And when it comes to auras of the Vazarin variety, we have aerodynamic, rejuvenation, and physique. And Shepherd, if you're using a companion. Combat discipline is also one. Lose a health on kill, but your spot mates gain 5 on kill, right? That one's kind of annoying. And toxin resistance. So, kind of the best one among Vazarin, personally, is going to be physique or rejuvenation. But rejuvenation is kind of slow. I'd rather just have more health. I have coaction drift, so that I'm getting essentially plus 50% health, I think. No, that's not how that math works. It would be like 28% or 26. Yeah. I have my bachelor's degree in computer science, and I can't figure out percentage math. And see, I'm building primarily for duration, strength, and range. I would go a little more into range, but you need at least a little bit of ability strength in order to get the self-portrait to cap out at 90%. This is my build. It is currently Steel Path viable. I ran it on Vivarium. The only issue that I had was I forgot to hit the life support stuff. So, like, literally the only thing keeping this from being Steel Path viable is me. Is my personal idiocy. Because you have a 90% damage reduction, I have Shooting Gallery going to not only give myself a weapons damage buff, but also to disable enemy weapons, which is pretty cool. At least like, temporarily. But it's still kind of funny. With additional range, we get 21 meters of range on the weapon jamming. But then we have Shadowgraph. Shadowgraph really isn't affected by much of anything. Right? It's affected a lot by efficiency and duration, but even with 75% efficiency like I have right now, it's still, like, the stuff you spawn still lasts for 45 seconds, and you can put it up to 5 meters away, which is pretty solid. And all of the damage from all of the world hazards that you're spawning are level scaling rather than power scaling, so you do get a little bit of extra damage for corrosive from the initial cast, but outside of that, the damage wouldn't change whether you had high strength or low strength. So cool like that. We've already been over self-portrait, and then Plein Air does benefit from this build because you are getting some extra damage, and you're getting a 99% defense reduction on top of dealing corrosive, so enemies do not have defenses any longer. It is kind of sick nasty. Now, something that I do want to check, because I didn't do this before, if I do a post 200 strength build. Okay, so if you get it to 200%, you can get a 100% defense reduction on Plein Air. Very, very useful stuff. Now, why did I subsume over Forced Perspective? Very simple. It does a decent amount of damage, but its range, even with this build, would only be about 6 meters wide. So I would need to be, like, throwing myself into the fray rather than getting myself out of it, which isn't how I personally enjoy using mobility casts, like especially things like teleports, just because I feel like those should be used more as escapes rather than engages. So I swapped it over with Shooting Gallery. You still get to apply the ink blot because you're going to be standing inside of the self-portrait for most of the time. But yeah, this is genuinely Steel Path viable. Even with me using the Exceltra instead of the Burst and Prime, I do usually use the Burst and Prime in Steel Path when the weapon isn't Warframe specific, or the Warframe isn't weapon specific. So yeah, I mean, like, is it as efficient as my Atlas or Korra or Valkyr? No. Does it work though? Yes. And is it fun? Also, yes. And that's what matters at the end of the day. Alright, that's something that I want you all to remember. Alright, if you leave this video remembering one thing, remember that at the end of the day, what matters is whether or not you're having fun. Okay? But that's basically all the stuff that I have for you today. Just kind of wanted to go over Atramentum and my kind of end-all be-all build for Fully. Until I see you all again, please do remember to stay funky and keep stargazing. Good night.